Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have more than 20 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Each week, we cover the three biggest stories in manufacturing and discuss the implications they have on the industry moving forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by giving the podcast a positive review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Whatever platform you use, give us that thumbs up on YouTube. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. We're also live every Thursday, so subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can get a notification whenever we go live. Jeff, how you doing this week?
I'm all right, man. How about you?
I'm doing great. You know, it's been a good week so far as we run into summer break, but it's always an odd week. So just a lot of weird scheduling.
Yeah, I have not had to deal with that in a little bit.
No, it was bike to school day today. So it's like I'm extra chipper, which is why when you just surprised me, I jumped out of my shoes.
Sorry about that.
No, it was completely on me. It was like one of those where you have the immediate embarrassment. You're just like, it's like, hey, let's go stand next to him for an hour. And all I could think of is man, remember when you were super dumb?
Yeah, we were thinking that too. We're like, why is David like this?
But only for the last 270 weeks. Anna, how you doing this week?
Great.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we jump into our first story this week, we have a word from our sponsor, Spot AI. This week's episode is brought to you by Spot AI. Transform your plant floor with AI that understands the physical world. Imagine if your existing security cameras could do more than just record. What if they could actively protect your team and optimize your entire production line? In a new video, Anna dives into how Spot AI is revolutionizing manufacturing with intelligent video AI agents. You will discover how to leverage the camera infrastructure you already own to uncover hidden risks and streamline your daily operations. Watch this video to learn how to enhance safety, like automatically detecting missing PPE and hazardous conditions before accidents happen, crush operational bottlenecks by identifying idle workstations, and maximize your tech ROI by seamlessly integrating advanced AI with your current camera setup. From basic security deterrence to full-scale manufacturing optimization, this informative session offers a practical blueprint for implementing video AI on your plant floor. So, watch the video right now. There's a link to view the video in the live chat and in the body copy. All right, our first story this week. Wisconsin casting supplier suffers, quote, significant fire event. Madison Kip Corporation, or MKC, is a supplier of lightweight, high-pressure die-cast aluminum parts. Last Tuesday, MKC experienced a significant fire event in Madison, Wisconsin. More than 75 firefighters responded, and crews had to cut through the plant's roof to put out the fire. No injuries were reported, and everyone did make it out safely. We don't know much about the fire yet, but MKC says it's working on recovery plans. Brian Sampson, MKC's new CEO as of April, said, quote, we are extremely grateful for the rapid and professional response from the Madison Fire Department and all emergency personnel involved. The company supplies parts to major Tier 1 suppliers and other OEMs like Harley Davidson, ZF Group, Dana Inc., and Dowk, which owns American Axle and Manufacturing, and GKN Automotive. ZF, which makes driveline, chassis, braking, and steering technologies for major OEMs, and Dana, which makes axles, drive shafts, transmissions, and other electric propulsion systems, said the fire won't impact operations or their supply chains, and according to an IEN source, MKC supplies a number of components to Harley-Davidson, including crankcases and transmission cases. Neither Harley nor MKC responded to an IEN request for comment. The location that suffered the fire was opened in 1987. It was adjacent to the company's South plant that's been open since 1898. According to local reports, the Madison Fire Department has actually responded to incidents at MKC's north and south plants 76 times in the past 10 years. The company also operates plants in nearby Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, and Richmond, Indiana. Anna, not Indiana.
Not short for Indiana, just for the record.
What a missed opportunity. So, Anna, I don't know much about this plant, and I actually lived about 1.5 miles away from it, but this was before I kind of like graduated into that NIMBY prime. But after doing some digging, it looks like MKC's relationship with the community is a lot less love and a lot more hate.
Yeah, and I don't even think NIMBY is a fair characterization if people object to this plant because of its history. There's a lot more going on there beneath the surface that I think is fair to discuss. So, as you mentioned, this is located in our city, so it gives us a little bit more, I think, nuance when covering this. We are aware of some of the context. You mentioned the 76 calls in the past 10 years. This company has also been subject to some pretty serious allegations around environmental issues. Mm-hmm. Studies going back decades have suggested that groundwater pollution tied to this manufacturer goes well beyond its property. It goes into the surrounding neighborhoods, the Starkweather Creek, Lake Monona, nearby bodies of water. So this includes contamination like VOCs, PCBs, vinyl chloride, like very serious toxic stuff. Mm-hmm. A 2017 settlement between Madison KIPP and the Wisconsin DOJ was blasted for being, quote, weak and included loopholes over remediation and what Madison Environmental Justice called a paltry $350,000 fine. So this factory was basically grandfathered into a lot of regulatory stuff and its location, because it's been around for so long. Like, this is just not commercial use or industrial use space where it's like, kind of in the middle of a neighborhood. Yeah. In Madison on the north side. So, you see them continuing to clash with regulators over the years. They've been taking advantage, I think, in my opinion, of like more business friendly state legislators who, they're asking to be a little bit less rigorous in the enforcement and the filing of permits and all this stuff. They're getting away with a lot because of that. And in my opinion, this is an example of industrial blight. Yeah. It sours people on the idea of industrial development because they are face to face with its impacts. Even though the types of facilities that are generally being pursued today are nothing like this. They're completely different, Yeah. I think this is a terrible corporate citizen. They're kind of giving manufacturing projects and manufacturing development a bad name. They have this new CEO, as you mentioned. Maybe we'll see if priorities shift at all.
Well, he's in the new CEO. He is, he specializes in turning around companies. Mm-hmm. So, it is in his wheelhouse to kind of get things headed in the right direction. Maybe he wasn't expecting it to continue going the other way as he took over, but hopefully he can really make some change.
Well, you hope so. There's been a lot of fires here. That's what has represented some of those calls that you mentioned. Yeah. And obviously they're, molding hot metals, so that happens, but does it happen as often as it does at Madison KIPP? Yeah. I don't know. There's a reason that the neighborhood does not rally behind this plant. And when you see a fire there, people are just like rolling their eyes, like, please, more of the same. Nobody wants it there.
Yeah. And I understand that it's selective in the people that are going to talk to the media when incidents like this happen. But a lot of people, there wasn't surprise or shock. It was just like, emergency services are there a lot. Mm-hmm. And it has kind of, people have kind of gotten fed up, and it's frustrating because when you have a company that has more than 100-year legacy in the neighborhood, that could be more of a success story, And I also didn't realize, I lived really close to this plant, like 20 years ago, but more recently, our wells were shut down for having some of these contaminants. And while they don't necessarily trace it specifically to this plant, there are certainly other issues in the Madison area. But it was as we're looking into the story more and more, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Mm-hmm. Like, remember that postcard I got in the mail where it's just like, hey, just so you know, we're not using your well anymore. Everything's fine. Don't really worry about it.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating. Jeff, according to MKC's website, this company is, quote, generally the sole source provider of its products to customers, which, it's hard sometimes when you're trying to read between the lines as to what's actually happening. When I reached out to all of these companies, high marks to ZF and Dana for getting back to me and just saying some of the reps said, hey, this wasn't even on our radar, and thanked us for getting it on their radar. But it's hard to imagine that this is going to have zero impact.
Well, that's what they're going to say.
True. Yeah.
They're not going to say our supply chain is screwed.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do. That is not going to be their response, even if it is the case.
Yeah.
So that's typical. But when you look more closely, and it definitely conflicts with what MKC says on their website about being a sole supplier.
Yeah.
And also some of the information that we've received through third parties as well.
Yeah.
Definitely conflicts with that. So there will be supply chain fallout without a doubt. It's interesting when you look at 76 incidents in 10 years. That is insane.
It is.
That is the fire department going there less than once every 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. And when you look at the 10-year period, it sort of coincides with a lot of the turnover that's happened at Madison Kip. This was a family-owned company up until 2015. 2015, there wasn't really a next Coleman to take over the business, so private equity got involved. Now, private equity can go one of two ways. You talked about not having a great, how there can sort of be this reputational element when you're not a good environmental corporate citizen in the community.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes, we see that same type of dynamic when it comes to how private equity impacts businesses. Not necessarily wanting to invest.
Yeah.
Looking at the bottom line, seeing what's going on. So when you look at all of those incidents potentially over the last 10 years, coinciding with private equity's involvement, you have to wonder what they're doing in terms of internal investments at this facility to try to improve the safety, the reliability of the equipment. This is, when you look at molding and casting, that's some heavy duty stuff. And there's also been a ton of technological advancement there that Madison Kip would need to make in order to keep pace and stay competitive, which we know has been a struggle over the last decade. So when you don't have a cause of this fire and you see the footage and you see the fire just coming out of the chimney or the smokestack, whatever you want to call it. That is not a typical industrial fire.
Yeah.
When you have to take out the entire roof of a facility in order to get at the fire in order to extinguish it, again, pretty extreme stuff going on here.
Yeah.
So it does, even though we don't know, and I want to make sure that's clear, we do not know the cause here, it does leave open to a lot of speculation when you start putting all the pieces together here.
Yeah.
So when things start coming out, we learn a lot more, it's going to be interesting to see. And hopefully it's not a situation where there was lack of investment, lack of safety understanding, just a culture that was basically saying, let's just try to make as much as we can here and get as much product out the door without investing in all these things we need to.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And again, the community's not real fired up about this place to begin with. So those tax breaks or some of those other incentives that sometimes businesses get to rebuild and move forward could become very contentious.
Yeah. And, aside from the story of the family business contaminating the river by drilling the secret pipe to it, it's typical. You see a family that was kind of born and raised in a community wanting to do right by everybody and their neighbors because they're friends. When it is private equity, that's just not the case. It is, it's an item on a spreadsheet. And, you mentioned that it can go one of two ways typically. I would prefer if there was more of an even split of one and two ways.
Well, and to be fair, there has been investment. They opened a new facility in Sun Prairie. That was a huge investment, but
they've had issues there too.
Yeah, there's ways to sort of mask some of the other deficiencies, and it feels like, again, we're speculating because we don't know.
Yeah,
it feels like there could be some of that going on.
Well, and that was the one thing I thought is that there were at least 4 different plants, so maybe that's why they're able to not have a huge supply chain disruption. But if you look at their site, each of these 4 plants did pretty different things, and had different equipment, different processes in-house. It sounded like things were pretty specialized at this North plant. And I've honestly been pretty surprised how there's been really no updates since the fire about, a week ago.
Did you find it strange also that some of Madison Kip's customers, you were the first that they were hearing about this, that Madison Kip did not report the fire to their customers? That is strange to me.
That was, I guess I didn't, because the person who mentioned that was in the communications department, that wasn't a surprise to me. Maybe if I was talking to someone directly in procurement or something, maybe I guess I would hope. But yeah, that was kind of surprising where they were just like, haven't even heard about this. Thanks. We'll be fine. And Jeff, you kind of mentioned this, but I also wanted to thank everyone that kind of helped put this article together, just because we did have a source that reached out to help us out, as well as the reps at other companies. Really appreciated that. We didn't hear back from Doc, but they do kind of have other problems on their plate right now, because I don't know if anyone's been following it, but they recently had about 1,000 union members walk off the job this week at the Three Rivers plant in Michigan.
Oh, that's that plant.
Yeah,
okay.
That's that plant. So they're just like, okay, thanks for letting us know.
Yeah.
We might not need the parts right now.
Gotta go.
Because this is the former American Axle plant that makes axles for GMC Sierra, the Chevy Silverado pickup, other commercial vans. So I understand why Doc didn't reach out.
Fair enough.
And that was the one thing too about, sometimes when you don't hear back from a company and you're trying to get more information from them, so you're pulling stuff off of their website, MKC did mention a number of companies that had been acquired. And so I was like, okay, maybe this isn't the most up-to-date information possible, but we got to go with what we have. Okay. Our next most popular story this week, U.S. Army testing first new hand grenade in nearly 60 years. Battelle recently partnered with the U.S. Army Close Combat Systems Program Office. They're working on a new M111 offensive hand grenade, the first new offensive hand grenade since 1968. The M111 was developed over many years of close collaboration, which is vital to developing a repeatable manufacturing process. Battelle supported various stages of this development, including the initial concept, the verification testing, and they prototyped about 7,000 grenades. That's a lot of prototyping. According to Battelle, the new system is safer than the M67 fragmenting grenade by using a blast over pressure effect that removes fragmenting effects and minimizes risk of fratricide. The M111 OHG will replace the obsolete body and fuse of the MK3A2 hand grenade series, which is restricted for use due to its asbestos body, unlike the M111, which uses plastic that is fully consumed during detonation. So, Jeff, it's been about 60 years since they've had a new hand grenade, which I did find a little shocking. Do you think they got it right?
Well, it's interesting. We called these concussion grenades when I was in.
Yeah, because it's like
pressure.
Because it's a shockwave that it creates, right? More than like a fragmented blast.
Well, obviously fragmented by the name. It's shooting shrapnel out. Yeah. Fragmented. It's a big boom. I mean, it's to call it a shockwave is. It's crazy, man. If you feel one, like I've been in the vicinity. I've never thrown one or anything like that, but I've been in the vicinity when one was let off, and it's wild.
So it's like a flashbang. Is like the same.
No, it's different. It's pressure. It releases. It feels. It's a bomb without everything blowing up.
Okay.
I don't know. Doing a poor job of describing that. It's very intense. It's like thunder, but it's right next to you.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That does make sense.
So it's interesting, and from a user perspective, fragmentation, yes, there is a definite potential issue for harm for the individual throwing it if you don't get out of the way. If you don't get down, if you can't take cover, there is that. However, if you can, the fragmentation offers less side effects potentially than a pressure or concussion type grenade. So it's interesting that they're kind of going this route. I mean, obviously, hopefully they've been talking to soldiers and getting their preferences. The one thing that got me with it, too, though, is the design. It's more of like a cylinder as opposed to the M67s that I threw and actually qualified expert with twice, no big deal.
Good to know.
Is a ball.
Yeah.
So it's more of a natural item to throw.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that kind of caught me initially with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, hopefully if they've done all of this R&D and all this testing, they've had people try them out and it is ergonomic to the mission and what people are using. But that was the first thing that stood out to me.
Okay. No, if we could get a couple of, not samples, just like prototypes, so we could see the fit, form, and function. No, fit and form.
Well, hopefully you wouldn't do the same thing that I did, Ron, because when we were going through and they were training us, the one thing they kept saying is don't throw it like a baseball.
Yeah.
Don't throw it like a baseball. So that was so in my head to sort of like do this more like a lob type throw.
Yeah.
That apparently when I went to throw my live grenade, I didn't throw it far enough.
It was more of a hook shot?
Yeah, it was just kind of like, here we go. And
Yeah.
the cadre on the range were not happy with me.
Understood.
So,
How are you supposed to throw it then?
well, it's more of I kind of did initially kind of like this like hook shot type thing, which you take it back, but you kind of throw it like this, almost open-handed.
Okay.
Whereas with a baseball, you kind of come through across your body.
Like more
You
catapulted?
don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's more of just an overhand throw. I got it down, though, again.
Yeah.
So a couple questions for you guys. Qualifying with hand grenades. What do you think is the distance you need to land? You do 7 different stations when you're qualifying with hand grenades in the Army. You have to get the grenade to land within a certain distance of the target. What do you think is the acceptable range?
The acceptable range?
You're throwing. It's a demo. It's not a real live grenade, obviously.
Like,
but it's the ball type. It was the M67.
Like from the ground to
Yeah.
the target?
You're doing a lot of different things. Like sometimes you're throwing it from a foxhole. Sometimes you're throwing it from your stomach.
Like 10 meters.
Meters? What are you doing?
30 feet.
Actually, they do register in meters.
Okay, but I don't know what that means. So
That's like a yard.
like 10 feet?
So it's 5 meters. You have to be within 5 meters, 15 feet.
Halfway home.
So how much exposure time do you think you get? In other words, you do want to make sure it's going in the right direction, but you can't watch it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need to get down.
Yeah.
So what is the acceptable time?
Before
What do
you start running?
Well,
Well, you gotta
you're,
get down,
you're
right? Take
dropping,
cover.
you're
Yeah.
rolling. Depends on the task. Depends on where you're at.
Like a 5 count? 5 seconds?
5 seconds. What do
Yeah.
you think, Anna?
2? I don't know. Let's see.
3.
We're just really
So
splitting the
you'd be
difference here.
John Wayning it. Don't John Wayne it,
Yeah.
David.
I mean-
don't watch it.
David's dead.
Like that's any surprise. Just like, let's see how far we can throw it, and I don't care what they say, I'm going to watch it go.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did say, so those M67s are still going to be used in open terrain, but these are used more for closed terrain.
Barracks.
Yeah. So Anna, first of all, I mean, there's little surprise that this is one of the most popular stories that we had this week. But did that stand out to you, just the timing? I mean, that it's been 60 years since we've had a new design come out.
I mean, it did seem like a really, really long time.
Yeah, it seems like a joke about like Army procurement. Just like
Yeah.
yeah. It took us 60 years to get a new grenade.
I know. And interesting that like the canister is on the M111 is made out of asbestos. They mentioned that as well. So it just speaks to how old that thing is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it seemed like a long time. But then when you read into this, and I did read an interesting quote from Colonel Vince Morris, who's
Yeah.
the project manager, close combat systems for this capabilities program, executive ammunition and energetics. Mm-hmm. I hope you guys remember what I just said.
Yeah, no, it's a lot.
It's a very long title. His name is Vince. I'm just going to call him Colonel Vince. What Colonel Vince said was that one of the key lessons learned from the door-to-door urban fighting in Iraq was that the M67 grenade wasn't always the right tool for the job, which I thought that phrase was like pretty apt because they were talking about how they are still planning to use this old design for all the reasons you mentioned, but that there's just going to be applications where it's just too risky to use it because of the, shrapnel. So blast over pressure, I think, is you're just throwing it into a room and killing everyone in the room. Right? I mean, that's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
There's still going to be a shrapnel effect, but it's not coming from what's located within the grenade.
Yeah.
So it's
Yep.
just different that way.
So I thought that, yeah. So like, it's more like a supplement to what already exists than a replacement necessarily, I guess. The one thing that I found interesting as well is this article that was on like military.com.
Yeah.
was talking about how the old design and the new design, for simplicity's sake, are using the same fuses. So they said it was actually going to enable the Army acquisition people to save costs by leveraging economies of scale. So there's just still going to be this common fuse production line that they could use to source both grenades.
Yeah.
So there, see, not everything is an overrun. They have found some efficiencies here.
It was. And I like, I don't know if it was in the military.com article, but there was, they must have sourced the army.mil article on this where it's just like, and because the government owns the IP and this is more standardized and scalable, we're saving you, the taxpayers, money. And I was just like, oh, thanks. They found some.
Well, and getting back to that 60 years with the new lack of the new design or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't really, it's about, I mean, it's a grenade.
Right.
There's not really a whole lot of enhancements that you're looking to make there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something you throw and.
Don't you need it to be AI enabled, Jeff? Because it's not.
Well, Doug would like to thank you both for your coverage of this story, which he says was a blast. That's just for both of you. Yep.
Thanks, Doug.
If I had you like a second earlier,
Thanks,
it might have even been a spit take.
No, I don't think it would have been.
No? Come on. Well, and that's a good point, Jeff. This wasn't necessarily like a redesign or a redevelopment. This was like fitting a different need.
Yeah, because the old concussion, at least the ones that I was familiar with, I mean, they were basically like a canister. I mean, it looked kind of like this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of oblong. It's tough to carry. So making it a little bit smaller, more compact does make sense.
Yeah. This Colonel Vince Morris said a grenade using this blast overpressure can clear a room of enemy combatants quickly, leaving nowhere to hide while ensuring the safety of friendly forces, hopefully reducing that fratricide that we mentioned earlier. Okay, our next most popular story. Our most popular story this week, a boiler-related explosion at International Paper's North Carolina plant injures multiple workers. Last Tuesday, or really late last Monday, an explosion rocked the International Paper Mill in Manson, North Carolina. An undisclosed number of people were injured at the packaging and box plant. International Paper confirmed to IEN that a boiler-related incident did occur at the facility and said that employees were evacuated. The company said first responders treated 2 people on site for minor injuries, and the cause remains under investigation. International Paper closed the facility and plans to reopen once officials determine it is safe to resume operations. The company will rely on its broader box plant network to continue serving customers. The Office of the State Fire Marshal is going to lead the investigation into the explosion. Officials have to assess the building's structural stability and address other safety concerns before conducting a full scene examination. So, Anna, this explosion seems to come at a really tough time for a competitor in the paper product space. Of all the industries, of all the sectors right now where things are tight and volatile, I believe that's pulp and paper.
There's so many right now. It's really hard to even, put them in a hierarchy. But yeah, International Paper is like one of the biggest paper companies in the world. They have 28 mills, 200 converting and packaging plants. They have 18 recycling plants. They have customers in 150 countries. Paper is one of those things in corrugate that you don't always really think about. So it's not like, you have PepsiCo and Coke in your head when you think of who the market leaders are in certain categories. This isn't one of those categories. But yes, while this explosion is a big deal, I think it's just one of many issues that are impacting this company right now. International Paper is undergoing a previously announced split into 2 businesses, one for North America and one for Europe, Middle East, and Asia.
Can they be International Paper anymore then?
I think so. I mean, You think they'll change to National Paper?
Yeah, National Paper.
Yeah, maybe.
National Paper A, National Paper B.
Maybe. They have a relatively new CEO. They're in the process of implementing some price hikes to offset cost increases from tariffs and from the war in Middle East that's also impacting them. The company has also been pursuing investments in its box plants specifically, both upgrades and then also some new greenfield operations, such as a site in Mississippi that they are building for $225 million. The company also acquired a Washington State plant in an effort to fill some gaps with its West Coast customers. The CEO actually recently said that the company is significantly short on paper on the West Coast and that it's been shipping there uneconomically.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Just sending it all the way across the country is what it sounds like.
Been a couple of things like uneconomically sent to the West Coast lately.
Yeah. So obviously, even small amounts of downtime in this segment is going to be challenging, right? It's not good for anybody, but also for a company that's like kind of, I mean, their revenue has been down. They're really trying to do a lot of things to turn things around. I think the other thing you have to think about is, so when I first saw the story and it was attributed to this boiler area.
Yeah.
And the number of employees that were injured was actually quite small.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised when they said that they had to close down and make sure that the plant was structurally sound in order to continue operating.
Yeah.
Led me to believe that maybe this was a little bit bigger incident than it was being portrayed necessarily in the media.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that for sure, but I do know that when a company is pursuing efficiency, they are looking at all of their investments and potentially the liabilities of those investments, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, this plant came as a part of a 2012 acquisition of the company Temple Inland. So it may not necessarily have been strategic in terms of its location. It kind of came as part of a larger deal. So you don't need downtime in an old plant. You don't need any sort of structural issues. I mean, it's very easy for these companies when they have this many plants and they're investing in new stuff to be like, we're looking at a long road to recovery here. Do we want to go down it?
Yeah.
So I don't think the story is quite done here. I'm hoping that this is, quick and they can get back up and running, but we'll see.
Well, and I mean, to kind of add on to that, the week before this incident happened, the company actually broke ground on a $250 million sustainable packaging plant in Mississippi.
Right.
So in the area, I mean, this is going to be a 470,000 new square foot facility, state of the art, lean manufacturing, making corrugated packaging. And construction was supposed to start this month. I mean, I can't foresee that being prevented for any particular reason, be done by the end of next year. So, I mean, are you kind of alluding to like, hey, this might not reopen?
Well, I don't know that, and I don't want to say that because I have no idea what the extent is of the damage. But, they're talking about kind of right sizing right now, and they're investing in areas that are not near here at all. They're investing on the West Coast. Obviously Mississippi is close-ish, but
near-ish.
Not quite, neighbors exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but it's not like their one plant was taken out by a tornado. This was, how many plants did you say they had?
They have 28 mills, 200 converting and packaging plants, and 18 recycling plants. Yeah, they have a big network.
Yeah.
And you see this all the time with companies like this, where every so often they reevaluate. Is this plant that needs all these renovations and is very old, is it worth doing that, or do we try to move some of the operations to a different spot? And, because obviously when you acquire paper companies, as they have over the years, obviously some redundancies develop in that strategy. And who knows? I mean, it could go any way, I think.
Jeff, when you look at this being a boiler-related incident, does it set off any red flags for you in terms of, I mean, getting the HVAC right? And the other thing is what is the long-term sustainability of corrugated packaging? I understand that it's being driven by everything e-commerce right now, but I almost wonder if we'll be in a post-corrugated packaging future where it's just do we need it all in a box?
Well, I don't know. going through a move right now with my mom. She needs lots of boxes. I mean, I don't think it's a dying market. Definitely e-commerce is helping it out. The one thing I think is interesting when you look at a potential like competitive almost facility there internally, Mississippi, a lot less expensive to operate there than North Carolina. So when you're looking at, again, boxes, corrugated packaging, tight margins, all of those things will come into play. I think one of the things when I started looking at this particular story, though, in looking at a boiler, and excuse the Captain Obvious statements here, but with a boiler, you're obviously looking at heat, you're looking at water. And when you're looking at the things that can go wrong here, it's the essence of blocking and tackling. It feels like to me, I mean, these are two, understanding you're dealing with a lot of heat and a lot of water and a lot of complexities with the operational process, but at the same time, paying attention to those things is somewhat basic. Like this feels very preventable, but it's also tied very closely to probably the infrastructure of the entire facility, which you would think would make managing it that much more important and paying attention to a lot of the things that are going on here. Again, with these types of situations, you want to sort of walk this line because fortunately there's no fatalities. We're looking at injuries here. But at the same time, this just feels more and more preventable. I know these things are going to happen from time to time, but with a company with the resources that International Paper has in terms of being able to monitor and stay on top of these things, and typically with a boiler, it's nothing new.
Yeah.
It's water scale that doesn't get cleaned off. It's not managing heat properly. You've got a lot of dust floating around as well. These are all things we've been talking about for a long time, but we have advanced safety technologies and sensing technologies to help mitigate these things.
Yeah.
So, and I know we had another story too, talking about a mill incident.
Yeah.
But it just feels like we have the capabilities to be much smarter. You just wonder what it comes down to. Is it an implementation? Is it an attention to detail thing? Is it a cultural thing? Whatever the case may be. These feel like they're getting more and more preventable to the point that they become stories because they shouldn't be happening like they are.
Do you think that's, I don't want to say recency bias, but the fact that we are sort of always covering the cutting edge of technology, that we're always seeing what the future factory looks like, that sometimes, do you think the public loses sight of how many sort of legacy factories we still have up and running in the U.S.?
Without a doubt. And I think that becomes part of the investment challenge for manufacturing right now, or as it always has been.
Yeah.
In addition to talking about monitoring your boiler, we're also talking about artificial intelligence and digital transformation strategies and all the different software options that are out there. So when you're in operations right now, it is very challenging because not only are you looking right in front of you, what do I have to get done today to keep product coming out the door, but also looking forward.
Yeah.
And that is a constant battle in terms of your priorities and your attention. But that is part of the deal right now. And I think part of that, and there's a lot of things going on, and I don't want to get into too much of a diatribe, when we look at manufacturing and investments that need to be made, some of the other things that are happening right now to take money out of the coffers are potentially impacting the ability for manufacturers to properly invest internally in their operations.
Yeah.
So there's, again, a lot of challenges right now when it comes to determining priorities for spending money.
Well, and it is a time where understanding the, huge expense that it's going to take to upgrade equipment, some of these new digital tools can be costly, but also reasonable in terms of preventative maintenance, making sure that these types of incidents don't occur. I think that it's not just this is old and it needs to be replaced. There are new tools as to how to continue to maintain these successfully and maybe give them a few more good years, so to speak.
Well, and I think there's a conversation that can take place here. And it again, this goes a lot of different directions, but it comes into educating people about manufacturing a little bit, the general public, in terms of this isn't a subsidy for manufacturing. This is making sure you don't have a boiler blow up in your backyard.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's why we're doing some things potentially from a government perspective, from a funding perspective, from a support perspective, whatever the case may be, to help manufacturers be better.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things I think we can do there.
Well, and on the topic of investments that you can make to upgrade existing equipment, this week's episode is brought to you by Spot AI. Transform your plant floor with AI that understands the physical world. I don't know if we've had an ad read that was more relevant to the previous story. So imagine your existing security cameras could do more than just record. What if they could actively protect your team and optimize your entire production line? In a new video, Anna Wells dives into how Spot AI is revolutionizing manufacturing with intelligent video AI agents. You will discover how to leverage the camera infrastructure you already own to uncover hidden risks and streamline your daily operations. So watch the video to learn how to enhance safety, like automatically detecting missing PPE and hazardous conditions before accidents happen. Crush operational bottlenecks by identifying idle workstations and maximize your tech ROI by seamlessly integrating advanced AI with your current camera setup. From basic security deterrence to full-scale manufacturing optimization, this informative session offers a practical blueprint for implementing video AI on your plant floor. So, go watch that video right now. There's a link in the body copy. There is a link in the live chat. In case you missed it, stories maybe not as popular on the site, but could make a big impact on the industry going forward. Anna, what do you have for us this week?
I selected the best story this week, so sorry, guys. You snooze, you lose. But it's about how a stamp factory Reddit-sourced a rubber waste problem that it was dealing with. This is actually just a really cool story. So Nick Magnuson, who runs Magnuson Custom Stamps and helps lead operations at Unity Stamp Company in Minnesota, was having an issue with his company's throwing out more than 200 pounds of clean, natural rubber scraps every week. Mm-hmm. And he reached out to some folks seeing if he could find another user for these and was not really getting anywhere. So he took his plea to Reddit, the social media network, and offered to ship out his rubber scraps to anyone who wanted them, just asking them to cover the shipping costs. Mm-hmm. He said that the Reddit post racked up 6.6 million views, and he's received hundreds of messages. And he said that he's been working through them one by one, and the variety has been his favorite part. People are explaining the applications that they might have for these rubber scraps, and a lot of it is artistic. You just have folks who are like an art professor in New York City who wants to experiment with this for sculpture. Somebody is serving kids with disabilities at a nonprofit. They said that the kids could use it for sensory and art projects, all the way to like a farmer who wants it as footing material for arenas and walkways, and people wanting to use it for drainage in planters or as garden mulch. Or a teacher said they want to use it as packing material for a packaging engineering class unit. So many cool things. Mm-hmm. He said it was a much wider net than he ever would have guessed. And he's kind of working through that. He already shipped out about 250 pounds of this waste. Yeah. And he has another 400 pounds committed to people on a wait list. And he said that his operations trim about a 55-gallon drum of scrap every week. And so he's producing and shipping as fast as he can. I thought there's so many obvious takeaways here, right? Mm-hmm. Keeping this out of a landfill is great, of course. I just love that this crowdsourcing plan was effective.
Yeah. And
I think it serves as an inspiration to other businesses who might typically just take the path of least resistance. But I'm sure if you're not motivated by the waste reduction component on its own, at least consider the fact that that disposal costs exist. And, maybe this is actually a better deal for you if you could find a way to put your product elsewhere to another use. But outside of just that application for it, I just thought it was just a fun illustration of how in an age where we literally have communication at our fingertips, how businesses can solve a problem in that way, maybe. I mean, so many of us, I think we get really wrapped up with, we're inside the four walls of our business. Mm-hmm. We're talking through things with internal teams, and those are the only people we are pinging for information to try to solve our problems. And I don't think business brains always think to like, hey, I should get on LinkedIn. I should ask everybody. I should ask around, maybe someone else has a great idea for this. Just sort of that community mindset I thought was really cool. And so many different problems are being solved at the same time.
No, it's and high marks to Ben Munson for reporting this story. And he said that one of the things he really liked about the story was that when he reached out to Nick Magnuson, that he just sent this list of everything that was so surprising. And I think one of the biggest issues is that you're right. When you're within those four walls, you don't see it as anything other than waste. You know, like this is your waste product. You don't think of it as having an additional use. And it took a little bit of frustration. I'm sure he didn't like, throwing it all away.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he'll ship it to you as long as you pay $1 per pound to help with the shipping costs.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I think, just one last thing to point out, like rubber is a natural resource, but it's very highly subject to environmental conditions, right? So like rubber trees don't always produce rubber if the conditions are not right. Yeah. So you see this with tire manufacturers and stuff. Sometimes they have really tough years because rubber gets really expensive. Yeah. It's just one of those resources that you think like we should use this if we have it.
Yeah, it's how we get cactus tires, right?
Cactus tires, yep.
I would like to shout out all the Reddit users out there where, we used to have this thing with one of our friends where anytime we sent around a really cool story, this friend would always say like, already seen it. And man, everyone with any sort of relation to Reddit was just like, yeah, I already know about this story. When I saw it on Reddit, thank you. It's fantastic. We're just making sure everybody else sees it. But I know that I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but even outside of these unique, very creative applications, it could be as simple as looking at the closest children's museum that you have to your place of business, because they likely have an arts and crafts room. And I know of at least 3 children's museums within 10 miles of this location that could find a use for this scrap rubber and using it for any type of project.
For sure.
Jeff, so is this a feel-good story for you? Or are you just like, I don't know. I'm waiting.
You don't always like a feel-good story.
Because I don't know. I'm like, sometimes I'm surprised when you come out on the other side and I'm just like, there's no way. There's like, yeah, but let's look at it this way.
Yeah.
What's the this way?
No, I mean, finally a positive application of social media. I mean,
okay, that's fair.
I mean, and I think that's one of the reasons there isn't more of this type of outreach is because it's difficult to sort through a lot of the garbage that is being posted up there.
That is true.
You could even Reddit. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's definitely some cases out there. Anyway, so it was positive to see that. And also, I mean, what a great way I like to talk about the thing that leads to the thing. This is how you get those things. Yeah. Is by putting this type of information or these types of resources out there. And, we do have that recycling problem. So finding good applications for these materials, positive all the way around. Yeah. Good stuff. The glass is half full, David.
Look at that. It's half full. And man, that is like your second unintended pun. That was just straight on point. Sorting through the garbage of social media. So good. You had to fire one too for the previous story. I let that one go. All right. Not 2 in a row.
Those were not on purpose.
I know. That's it. But the other one, the custom bass guitar, like I think that's why this article captured my imagination too, was because you see all the different applications people are going to give it a shot with. Even the sculpture, like just piling these scraps together and trying to turn it into something. I think that's, everyone saw what other people were going to use it for and kind of it let them have an exercise in what they could potentially use it for. I thought it was very creative. Very well done. All right. In case you missed it this week, was a report from Nolan Beilstein. This is a new series that he's working on, Real Life AI. And in part 1 of this series, he put together the 6 use cases that reclaimed hours of wasted time. So this new series from Nolan, manufacturing.net, it hopes to skip the marketing noise and identify the true manufacturing AI value. And he's going to do it right now. So Nolan started with a simple question. Where has this technology actually delivered ROI? And the results were concise, insightful, actionable, all things that we're looking for with AI right now in terms of, hey, go out and get me some AI. All right. We need it by 5. So there were 6 use cases here. I pulled out 3 of them that I thought really stood out, but I do highly encourage you to both go and check out the rest of this post and continue watching this series. I think it's going to start as a monthly written series, and we'll go from there. So Vineet Thavara is the chief product officer at Fluke Corporation. He said Fluke is using generative AI tools to download publicly available manuals for all the equipment that the company services. So when a technician goes on site, they would typically spend at least an hour, sometimes two, reading through the SOP. Now, this technician puts the machine number into an app that automatically pulls up a step-by-step process. Thuvara says it, quote, literally turns 1 or 2 hours of time into less than 5 minutes. Felix Brockmeyer is the CEO of IGUS. He says that they're using AI right now with their CRM system to review every incoming email from customers and to automatically sort these emails or cases into various different categories for much faster processing. Brockmeyer says that it used to be one giant bucket where 30 different people would kind of sort through these emails manually to try and find the right sequence and priorities. He says they get thousands of emails from customers a day, so having this AI pre-sort between orders, quote requests, order status updates, invoice copy requests, technical inquiries, and other items is saving them hours and hours every week. Finally, he had feedback from Ian Sandusky. He is the principal at Lakewood Machine and Tool. Ian says he's seen good use cases for AI programming and feature-based machining. These kinds of features have been around long before this whole AI craze, but there seems to be a lot more investment and development going on across CAM platforms or add-ins at the moment. He says that an experienced qualified CAM programmer still needs to be in the loop, but it saves a lot of time and busy work for when you're programming. Now, I obviously chose this story because I feel like ever since AI became the thing, we've been talking about how to use it. Is it actually doing anything? And what can other businesses do right now to make it useful? And when they had to answer this very simple question, how have you ever seen ROI with it? I think that it came up with some kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, low-hanging fruit that other people could investigate and pursue. Jeff, I don't know if you had a chance to check out this article or series. What did you think?
Well, no, exactly what you were saying. It doesn't need to be that, revolutionary for your company. I mean, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Dip your toe. Go at your own pace. Those are the things that, when we talk about AI, that always come to mind for me. And a lot of these things are not real complicated deals, but you're taking a ton of data and asking software basically to figure it out, which it can think through and process according to your prompts. And the more you use it, the better you can get with your prompts in terms of funneling the other information to where you want it to spit out what you need. So, no, all of these things, again, I think the application was perfect because it's in the industrial sector. It's very real world types of situations. But again, not reinventing the wheel. This is just going to save you a ton of time because it can process all this data much more quickly.
Well, and you're finding it in obscure ways. You know, I don't know how it initiated where they're just where Fluke realizes, like, hey, we have a lot of technicians reading manuals for hours before they service a machine. And then Anna, like the fact that they're like, well, what if we just feed it all into a large language model and start asking questions? I think it takes I think because people are thinking so big picture sometimes that they kind of miss the small picture that could make a big difference right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes people get hung up because they try something and it doesn't work well.
Yeah.
And so then they give up, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is a good way of like looking at, like you said, low-hanging fruit, things that maybe they could consider like, oh, you know, we have a similar problem or we have the same problem. Maybe we could try it for that. So great that these companies are putting this stuff on record and saying like, hey, here's what we're experimenting with. We're all kind of new to this, trying to figure out some things. And, you know, I think, you know, AI gets a bad rap because people think it's going to kill jobs, but like, you mentioned Spot AI and their technology, which is really like using AI security agents to track things that are happening in your plant. These are jobs. These are not jobs that people are doing right now. No one has like a dozen people watching cameras for to identify the second the line goes down, or why it's down, or if somebody's not wearing safety glasses or whatever it is doing. or a near miss of a forklift. That's just stuff that's just not being captured right now.
Yeah.
So this is like an absolute like brand new efficiency that you can add that's not replacing anything, but it does add a ton of value to your operation. So I think like people are starting to think about some of those things and what they can explore. So I thought this was really helpful for them.
Yeah, a lot of those applications where the only answer seemed to still be the machine whisperer, right? The person that can go into the facility and hear the leak. Now this is like using the power of AI to find it and identify it before anyone really would. Because you're right, that's not a job. That's just something that a worker would be like, hey, I was walking by this machine on the way to lunch, heard a whistle, never heard a whistle before. Maybe check that out.
You have to rely on people reporting that stuff to you, right? Or, one safety manager who's like trying to walk around, play whack-a-mole with PPE. I mean, it's just not something that's happening right now. So, yeah.
No, and how many times do we hear those safety stories, right? That after the fact, they were not wearing the correct PPE, sometimes even if it was issued to them, if these cameras can recognize, like, yo, put on a N95. Like, that could really make a lot of change. Jeff, what's your in case you missed it this week?
Yeah, I picked a story talking about which shocks pose the biggest risks to global food systems.
Ooh, I need to read this.
So, very interesting. Well, not really. Because it really, it's not an uplifting story, but it definitely sheds a light on some things that we're not associating with food supply. So Oxford-led research suggests many countries may be focusing on the wrong kind of food resilience. Findings challenge food security strategies that focus mainly on increasing domestic food production, but overlooking their dependence on some of these shocks to the production abroad and energy supplies. Now, the analysis showed that these shocks that are found in spikes in energy and fertilizer prices, such as those caused by the wars in Ukraine and Iran, can rapidly spread through global food systems because modern agriculture depends heavily on fuel, fertilizer, and transport. So basically the whole focus of the article is when we look at some of these countries that have issues and problems with food supply, we look at, they don't have the agricultural infrastructure. They've got weather issues. There are other climate problems, whatever the case may be, as opposed to assessing some of the other elements that are going on that are also impacting global food supply, like not being able to get ships out of the Strait of Hormuz, like all the wheat export issues in Ukraine, like the fact that we have a huge energy issue. Farmers need energy. Yeah. Farmers need fertilizer. Okay. You can talk about gas prices, but what we don't talk about enough is the fact that in addition to oil not being able to be processed for gas, it can't be processed for fertilizer. So right now in Ukraine, we have all these countries that are hurting because we can't get wheat out of Ukraine. Well, the farmers here in the U.S. that could potentially pick up that surplus, they're running into additional costs associated with their machinery, which costs more because of import taxes or tariffs. Yeah, they're causing more because their fertilizer costs more, and they're also dealing with some other internal issues. The fact that we don't always appreciate how integrated all of these things are on a global level, is something that this article did a very good job of pointing out. Yeah. And the fact that we don't think about how interrelated all this stuff is. And you can even, if you want to take that isolationist approach, that's fine. But we can't sell our food products here in the U.S. to other countries because of a lot of these barriers. It's become so much more expensive to produce, ship, sell all of these food products that we want to and that these other countries need. But we're not thinking about how it's all so interrelated to some of these bigger global economic events and social events. So I thought this was really interesting. When we talk about things that impact the industry going forward, this hits all of them. Yeah. So a very interesting article, very interesting research, and the fact that it just goes beyond a lot of those simple things and really dives into how complex and how interrelated energy markets are. We were just talking about artificial intelligence. The White House just came out with an executive order about AI. That's great. And we do need to address that, but what about grids? What about energy? Right. All of these things that we sort of have a tendency to skip over and get to the big point, and we don't look at the main stuff. So pick your analogy, if it's blocking and tackling or the ready, fire, aim type of dynamic, that's a lot of what's going on here when it comes to food. Yeah. And couldn't get much more basic in terms of a human need than food.
That is an entirely different episode of the podcast where it's just like, how is grid infrastructure the biggest argument with EV adoption? But then we have data centers coming online that are going to be more power hungry than all but 10 countries in the globe, and everything's going to be fine. It's just a different dynamic, and it continues to befuddle me at times. The other thing that really stood out to me about this article is that so many times when you're talking about these ripple effects, you're looking for the expert that's going to put it in plain English for you, right? Like, hey, this is stopped here, which means it's not going to get here, which means you're not going to get this. And you need someone to sort of tell you what those levers are going to mean. Whereas they developed this model where it's simple inputs and outputs, and you basically say less of this, more of that, what happens? And it's very simple for people to understand. And I think that could be a very powerful tool. Just because, and understandably, like, people, you can't know everything. You can't know when people hear about the Strait of Hormuz, they don't know what that's going to mean for everything on their bottom line.
They don't realize that impacts wheat farmers in Kansas,
yeah,
and those who want to bake bread in Egypt.
Yes.
I mean, that's how it affects things.
So, Anna, when you're looking at this, okay, and yeah, maybe it wasn't as grim, but you know what? I think that everyone could do a little better by having a better understanding of how global trade has an impact, not just on the food system, food insecurity, kind of everything, everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and there were some pretty grim stats in here, like this point about how extreme weather and poor harvests alone shifted global food prices by 10 to 15%, but some countries experienced domestic food price shocks of up to 50 to 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that will cause people to not eat. You know what I mean? Like,
correct.
that's terrifying. And the fact that, if this is all happening simultaneously and the world's bearing it all at once, that's a lot to think about.
Well, in what was the final point? In the worst compound shock scenarios, almost every country experienced food security losses simultaneously, although not equally. But, the reason that we cover these stories and the reason that it is important is because, creating tools to hopefully get ahead of this sort of thing and not just use them as a grim reality. All right, before we get out of here, let's do our final thoughts this week. Anna, what is your final thought for this week?
Over the weekend, I ran a 5K with my daughter, who's in a program called Girls on the Run, and it's like a kind of like a running club that's really focused on empowerment, because there's a lot of kind of really sad stats about girls as they reach a certain age, how they stop opting into sports. And sometimes that's because of self-esteem issues or not feeling like they're proficient enough at something. They don't want to try because of, however they feel about themselves. Yeah. So my daughter loves it. She's done it three different sessions now. She tells me it's a little bit heavy on the empowerment stuff. She doesn't need it. She doesn't need that.
More running, less empowerment.
Yeah. She's like, I don't need all this feedback, which I feel like is probably a good thing.
Yeah, that's good.
She's getting enough.
Yeah.
But we ran this 5K on Saturday with I think there's 800 kids that are in it from all these area communities, and they're running buddies, the adults that ran with them. And it was just the most fun, uplifting, girl power type event. I really had a lot of fun doing it. Not something I ever thought that she would ever choose to do, which is the fun thing about being a parent, is kind of following your kids down a path that maybe you did not expect. So
yeah, well, there's a great sense of pride there. And then also when the kids realize, when they realize, I think I like this.
Yeah.
And it's great,
Also very funny to me was so she's not very competitive about the running part.
Yeah.
So she was very casual about our pace. And
that's nice.
Until she would see the professional photographers in the woods, and then as soon as she would see one, she would
then the form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you just running for the cameras? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Duh, Mom.
Right? This is a photo op. I'm about empowerment, but I know I don't want to look sloppy
exactly.
when they post it to social. Well, mine was also sort of fitness related, but not nearly that distance or that many people. Our community did the bike to school day this morning. And first of all, I was lucky enough to work for a company where I could, come in precisely 28 minutes late, and able to be to do this with the kids. But it was just really refreshing and a good reminder of how your day can change when you get a little bit of exercise in the morning. B, like motivating kids to try something new and them really enjoying it. And when a community comes together to make it work. We had 20 people from our section of the neighborhood meet another 40 people on the way to the park. And then we met another 200 people on bikes. And you realize you think, man, we're like 4 blocks away from the school, but 200 kids on bikes, 3rd grade and lower.
Yeah.
And I thought our 4K was going to be an outlier. A lot of 4Ks. Actually, I give a lot of credit. There were actually a couple of moms that even had the little push bike and pushed their kids all the way to daycare.
Nice.
Went the extra mile.
Wow.
But it was great. And seeing the kids all work together, everyone be safe. My youngest, I really got a kick out of wanting to be safe, but also really not wanting to be last. Like we got to catch up to the big kids. And it was overall a great experience. And just a reminder that, getting a little bit of getting your heart going a little bit in the morning can really reset your day. And when we arrived at 4K, the amount of pride in my son's demeanor was so much different than how we normally arrive. And he's like, yeah, me and Will biked to school today. And just wanted to make sure everybody knew. And sometimes it's just the simple things that can change your day. Jeff, what's your final thought this week?
Well, yeah. So the tool that we showed off, I think there was sort of a consensus to agree with you, David.
Oh,
and that it was like a fishing. The one thing that is definite is it was not off the shelf.
Yeah,
this was definitely homemade.
Oh, really? Okay.
There was some folks that definitely agree with you in the fishing. You also saw some things where you could use that stake to put it in the ground for a hose for watering plants or animals, things like that, which is kind of the mindset I had. But then also using that clamp, again, put it on a fence post or whatever, or a boat if you're fishing.
Did you try AI image search at all?
Yeah, and it was very confused.
Yeah.
it was very confused, but we did have some feedback again with those types of ideas. So that was cool to hear and appreciate everybody who
I do more of that.
I'll try to find some more crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just hit some garage sales and try to figure it out.
It motivated me I want to go to my dad's shop because every time I'm in there, I'm just like, no, what? And I will hold it up to him and he's certain he knows what it is. And he will talk himself and you into believing what he tells you it is. But no, that was, I like when you try to stump AI too. And it's a metal tool, little bit of patina. Just like you just described.
It did try to convince me it was some sort of piece of lab equipment, which
okay. No,
not buying that.
I don't Gen 1 lab. All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Anna, Jeff, or David at IN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. And subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can join us whenever we go live on Thursday. Give us a thumbs up while you're there and share with your friends. Help us spread the word. All right. For Jeff Reinke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.